If there's one thing League players love, it's overcomplicating everything, especially their champion picks. And while you're stressing over mastering the latest overpowered meta champion from a recent tier list, some chill guy is quietly climbing in the background, playing Malphite. Which is why today, we're breaking down 10 champions that are practically impossible to mess up. 2 for each role. No complex mechanics, no advanced combos, just simple, strong, and effective picks that will get you climbing immediately. No service dares to guarantee results. Dating apps can't guarantee matches, gyms can't guarantee gains, coaches can't guarantee ranks. If they did, they'd all go bankrupt overnight. Yet for over a decade, SkillCapped has stood by one bold guarantee: climb at least 5 whole divisions while actively using our service, or get every penny back. No questions asked, because at SkillCapped, we don't just promise results, we actually deliver them. As rather than repeating the same generic, boring advice you'll hear time and time again, our world-class courses focus on teaching you what truly matters for your rank. From essential courses for every role designed to help you rank up fast, to low elo analysis that helps you identify your mistakes and, more importantly, fix them. Check out the exclusive discount link in the description below and start your climb today. Our first top lane pick is living proof that sometimes the simplest option is the best one. Garen. What makes him so good right now? Simple. He excels at literally everything while being about as demanding as a pet rock. Maxing E enables you to always gain the push advantage, ensuring you always have priority in the lane phase, while trading around the speed increase and silence effect on your Q makes it nearly impossible for your lane opponent to avoid, yet alone trade back. At which point, if they ever do, you can just activate your W to gain a shield and damage reduction. And if by some miracle you do end up coming out on the losing end of a trade, you can just eventually heal back up from your passive, making him nearly impossible to punish. Not to mention, once you get level 6, especially now with the new Axiom Arcanist rune, you can practically kill any non-tank in a single rotation just by closing the gap with Q, hitting E, and then finishing them off with R. For runes, against range or high burst damage champions, we suggest grabbing Phase Rush with Resolve as your secondary, whereas in more brawlery melee matchups, opting for Conqueror as your keystone with Axiom Arcanist and Celerity as your secondaries is preferred. For items, start Doran's Shield to make it nearly impossible to whittle you down, then work towards your 3 core items: Swiftness Boots, Stridebreaker, and Phantom Dancer. From here, you can adapt how you see fit, opting either for more tank items, with Deadman's Plate being a great option, or for more damage with items like Mortal Reminder and even Infinity Edge. But it's this 3-item core that enables Garen to be a complete menace on the Rift, as suddenly you're moving around the map like you've got a permanent ghost active. Try to pin you down in the side lane? Good luck. Try to escape your justice? Even better luck. The result? A perfect and easy champion to climb with. Our next top lane pick proves that sometimes all you need to win games is a shovel and a dream. Yorick. The game plan is simple. In the early game, focus on last-hitting minions and sustaining with your Q, avoiding prolonged trades or all-ins, as this is when you're at your weakest. Instead, just play to annoy your opponent. Build up 3 graves, and when your opponent steps up to last hit, harass them by landing your E and letting your small army do the dirty work for you, saving your W to either disengage if you get caught out, or to trap your opponent as you move in for an extended trade on an already low enemy. Remember, your W is one of the most powerful abilities in the game. Your opponents can't walk through it, but you and your entire team can. This means you can do more than just lock enemies with your ghouls. You can block off choke points, or even use it defensively to disengage from sticky situations. But ultimately, your main goal is to just reach level 6. This is where Yorick becomes an absolute low elo menace. Once you have your ult, you can 1v1 nearly every champion in the game with next to no mechanical skill required, which means you can just jump into a side lane, summon Maiden, and watch as turrets melt before your very eyes. And turrets are the name of the game, as generally, instead of grouping, you'll want to avoid teamfights and just split push relentlessly. Especially in low elo, this becomes frustratingly hard for your opponents to deal with, allowing you to win games even when your KDA might suggest otherwise. For build, take Conqueror, Triumph, Bloodline, and Last Stand to give you that extra sustain in prolonged fights. Pair it up with Overgrowth and Demolish as your secondaries. Items start with Doran's Shield to help with your weaker early game, and then work towards Trinity Force, Swiftness Boots, and Cyrilda's Grudge as your 3-item core. Trinity Force significantly enhances your turret taking power thanks to the Sheen proc, while also providing a well-rounded mix of stats to bolster your dueling potential. Whereas Cyrilda's Grudge applies its slow effect through Maiden and your ghouls, making it nearly impossible for enemies to escape. From here, grab Hullbreaker and then cap out your build with either Shojin or Sundered Sky for more damage, or items like Sterix or Death's Dance for a little more survivability. Moving over to jungle now, our first suggestion may come as a bit of a surprise, Volibear. But hold on a second, let me explain. Even if he's not S tier right now, Volibear's kit is so simple yet so effective in lower elos, as people just don't know how to properly play around his W. This makes him absolutely insane in small skirmishes and prolonged fights, where even against the majority of the harder to execute meta junglers out there, between your W healing, Q stun, and E shield, you're durable yet still do very high damage. Then, needless to say, his ganks are also foolproof. Pop your Q, run at them, E slightly before you get to them, and voila, you've chunked them for half their health. Once you can unlock your ultimate, you can even look to snowball games by diving towers, without the need for any coordination or reliance on your laners, or even simply just use it as a gap closer for the damage and additional health. As for runes, we suggest going Precision for press the attack, coupled with Sorcery for the additional movement speed from Celerity and Water Walking, starting Gust Walk or Hatchling as your jungler item and then rushing Sundered Sky as your first completed item, adding Swiftness Boots along the way as your boot of choice to help gloss over some of your mobility issues, at which point you should work towards Iceborne Gauntlet to complete your 3-item core, before rounding out the rest of your build with tank items like Deadman's, Unending Despair, and Spirit Visage. Going this route keeps you tanky throughout the game, enabling you to be the front line for your team while still keeping your damage relevant, and is far more forgiving than a more AP-focused build with Rod of Ages. Our second pick for the easiest champion to climb with this patch is, of course, Amumu. Amumu is one of the most reliable junglers this season thanks to his simple mechanics, clear win condition, consistent crowd control, and a strong frontline presence. And with nerfs to many of his previously tough matchups, he's only gotten stronger this patch. However, as you probably know, Amumu's true power lies in his ultimate, a game-changing tool that can turn fights in an instant. And this season, with the introduction of Otacon, its impact is even greater. One well-timed ult around an objective can single-handedly win the entire game. Now for the build, something that our subscribers have been abusing for freelo this patch is the combination of Liandry's, Abyssal Mask, and Bloodletter's Curse as your 3-item core. This setup gives you the perfect balance of tankiness and damage, letting you soak up hits while still packing a punch, synergizing perfectly with your passive, melting enemy resistances, and amplifying your AP carry's damage. This exact build, runes, and even a new optimal jungle clear for Amumu was recently featured in our brand new daily guides at SkillCapped.com, where we break down the latest challenger level strategies the moment we discover them. These unedited guides cover topics like itemization, patch rundowns, macro decisions, and really anything our challenger coaches think will help you climb this season. While the full force of our editors and scriptwriters continue pumping out our world-class premium courses and guides, giving you the best of both worlds to guarantee your climb this season or your money back. Anyway, after your 3-item core, round out your build with tank items that counter the enemy team's biggest damage threat. For boots, grab Merc Treads or Plated Steel Caps based on their comp. For runes, run Conqueror with Triumph, Haste, and Last Stand, followed with Domination Secondary, taking Cheap Shot and Ultimate Hunter. Taking a look at mid lane now, our first suggestion is going to be Malzahar. If you struggle with trading, wave management, or feel like your mechanics aren't what they used to be, Malzahar is your perfect ticket to climbing this season. What makes him so effective is his ability to completely shut down his lane opponent while still reclining in your chair. As with just your E and W, you can instantly clear waves, forcing your opponent to spend the entire game dealing with minions instead of pressuring you or the map. This not only keeps you safe, but also frees you up to influence the map however you see fit. And once you hit level 6, simply ping your jungler, press R, and enjoy your free kill. Even as the game progresses into the mid and late stages, Malzahar scales amazingly. You can play safely from a distance, letting your damage over time chip away and slow enemies, while simply holding onto your ultimate to punish anyone reckless enough to dive into your back line. As a whole, making him impossibly difficult to deal with in anything below Diamond. For build, rush Blackfire, Torch, and then work towards Liandry's and Rylai's in that order. Then go for either Shadow Flame or Zhonya's, depending on if you need more damage or more survivability. Capping your build off with Death Cap, Void Staff, or even Malignance. As for runes, we suggest going Comet, Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Gathering Storm, with Magical Footwear and Cosmic Insight as your secondaries. Moving on, our second pick for mid lane is going to be Annie. But not how you think. Now, the issue with Annie is that while on paper I don't think anybody would argue that she's not easy to play, especially with how simplified she makes last hitting, but when it comes to actually climbing on her, it's a whole different story. Sure, every time Flash is up, you can hopefully delete an enemy carry with Tibbers, but outside of that, it often feels like you don't really have any impact at all, which is why we focus on actually teaching you how to climb, from your perspective in your elo, especially through our Smurf commentaries. Here, our challenger coaches jump into the trenches with you, navigating the exact situations you'll find yourself in, and exposing the common mistakes in your elo and how to punish them in real time. Simply pick your champion and even that frustrating matchup you struggle with, and our library of hundreds of in-depth commentaries will guide you through the exact steps you need to dominate your lane and take control of your games. For example, after watching our most recent Annie commentary from SkillCapped's very own Hector, it turns out the very first thing he said was this.
Now, Burst Annie has been dead as a playstyle for quite a while, but I still see a lot of players still building burst items on her, like Shadow Flame or stuff like that, when in reality, you want to go for a more battle mage, bruiser-ish kind of tankier and DPS-oriented version.
And instead, all you need to do is change your build and pick up Malignants, Liandries, and Rylais and run this Comet rune page. See, how this works is that all these effects passively get applied from your Tibbers. But yeah, that's literally all it takes. Not only does this adaptation make Annie even more impactful and better to climb with, but it makes her even more straightforward to play. As instead of just looking for plays with your ult, you can simply ult whoever and let the perma slow and high sustained damage from Tibbers melt through enemy team. You can find tons of great information and amazing tips just like this one here.
So what you can do is send Tibbers away from you in a fight, and it spawns right as the hook is coming in. Very nice.
As well as commentaries for all of the champions we featured in this guide and more over on our website. Next up, we have ADC, and if you're looking for an easy champion to climb with this patch, well, a more conventional ADC like this just isn't going to cut it. Instead, how about just popping R and walking into the enemy team? Yep, Swain. To be honest, Swain is mechanically a bit more challenging than most of the champions in this video, at least until you master the basics of his combo. The tricky part is timing his W correctly. After landing your E, you need to place your W where the enemy will be when they're pulled in by the second part of your E. A common mistake new Swain players make is instantly activating the pull as soon as E connects. But instead, you can wait a split second, drop your W in the right spot, and then trigger the pull for a more reliable setup. However, once you hit level 6, Swain truly comes into his own. With his ultimate active, his 2v2 skirmishing and teamfight presence are unmatched. Not only does it make him incredibly difficult to take down, but it also lets him dish out relentless sustained damage. For your build, the best option right now is to rush Rylais as your first item, and then work towards Winter's Approach, with Liandries finishing off your 3-item core, before capping off the rest of your build with either Zanya's or more tank items like Spirit Visage and Unending Despair. Then for runes, we suggest Conqueror, Presence of Mind, Haste, and Coup de Grace, with Axiom Arcanist and Transcendence as your secondaries. But if you prefer a more conventional ADC, the only champion you'll need to climb this season is Misfortune. Misfortune is one of the few ADCs that requires very minimal mechanics to pull off. Last hitting is simplified through her passive. Your strut makes it so that you can maneuver around the map quickly, and your Q is a very easy tool to trade around in lane. Then once it comes to team fighting, all you really need to do is set yourself up for a big ultimate and watch your opponent's health bars melt. For builds, we suggest going for the lethality variant, rushing Hubris as your first item before going Collector into Serylda's Grudge, with Bloodthirster as your fourth item. Although Hubris is often seen as a snowball item, games in lower elos often end up going so long that you'll get it stacked up regardless, whereas Ghostblade really isn't needed as you're fast enough anyway. As for runes, pick up First Strike, Magical Footwear, Biscuit Delivery, and Jack of all trades, with Axiom Arcanist and Gathering Storm from the Sorcery Tree as your secondaries. Last up, let's cover our recommended support picks this patch. If you like engaged supports, it's time to put down the Leona, retire the Thresh, and say hello to one of the most powerful yet easy to execute supports in the entire game right now, Maokai. Almost every engaged support is reliant in some way or another on a skill shot to be truly impactful, but not Maokai. He's completely foolproof with his entire kit being point and click, and with support roaming being so prevalent right now, Maokai's impact on the map is truly unmatched, as you can W or even flash W, knock the enemy back to your team with your Q, and secure easy kills. Then in the late mid game, his R becomes one of the best engaged tools around, where you can just position yourself from off angles and send it through the enemy team to force fights, or even use it as a tool to disengage if you have to. Plus, if you're somebody who frequently finds yourself getting caught out securing vision control, Maokai is one of the most self-sufficient supports out there, as you can just use your E from long range to scout bushes. His core build right now is to go for Solstice Slay and then rush Trailblazer as your first completed item, picking up Swiftness Boots along the way before transitioning into Locket of the Iron Solari, rounding out the build with personal tank items like Unending Despair or Thornmail. For runes, it doesn't get any better than Aftershock for the additional survivability, with Font of Life, Second Wind, and Revitalize, opting for Biscuit Delivery and Cosmic Insight in the Inspiration Tree as your secondaries. Last but definitely not least, if engaged supports are not your thing, then we highly suggest Janna. Janna is a champion with an incredibly high skill ceiling, yet one of the lowest and most effective skill floors in the game. Simply by playing safely, shielding your carries, and granting them passive movement speed, you provide immense value with minimal effort or mechanical skill required. Beyond that, her Q and ultimate offer some of the best tools for peeling and disengaging fights, ensuring your team stays safe. Meanwhile, the speed boost from your W combined with Swiftness Boots gives you exceptional map presence, allowing you to rotate quickly while staying out of danger. For build, we recommend going Dream Maker for your support item into first item Echoes of Helia with Moonstone next, ensuring to pick up Swiftness Boots at some point as well. This will give you the highest passive value on your shields, which should be your main focus. From here, you can round out out your build with items like Redemption or Dawn Core, opting for Airy, Mana Flow, Celerity, and Gathering Storm in the sorcery tree, and Font of Life and Revitalize as your secondaries for even more shield power. And again, if you're looking to climb fast this season, be sure to check out our Smurf commentaries page, where our challenger coaches break down exactly how to play every champion featured in this guide. And that's on top of our full library of expertly curated courses designed for players of all skill levels. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned veteran, we have everything you need to climb this season. Click the link in the description below and start your climb today. And there you have it, 10 of the easiest yet incredibly strong champions this patch that you should be playing to climb. Thank you so much for watching, good luck with your rank climbs, and we'll see you in the next one.